In this video, we will explore in detail the timeless lessons on wealth from the book by George Samuel Clason, The Richest Man in Babylon, chapter by chapter. This book does not get bogged down in difficult financial jargon. It is based on ancient wisdom passed down through the centuries, utilizing simple and unforgettable stories. These stories will feel as familiar as your own life, making you think, bringing a smile to your face, and above all, teaching you to take responsibility for your wealth. This work is set against the backdrop of Babylon, the world's wealthiest ancient city, dating back nearly 4,000 years. You will encounter characters like Arkad, who was the richest man in Babylon and built a vast fortune starting from scratch. But here is another interesting aspect. This ancient wisdom did not come from a famous chief executive officer or a modern financial advisor. It is the contribution of a quiet man named George Samuel Clason, who lived through one of the most challenging periods in American history. He was no Wall Street giant. He was not a lavish millionaire either. He was a civil engineer, a soldier, and later a cartographer. In fact, at the beginning of the 20th century, his company produced the very first atlas of America and Canada. He founded one of America's leading map-making companies until a severe economic depression destroyed everything. Yet a new turn in life followed. Even while managing his company, Clason began writing short pieces on wealth and personal success. Despite losing his business, he did not give up. He stayed true to those narratives and rebuilt himself. In 1926, he compiled those stories into a short book, giving the world one of the most influential economic works in history, the book titled The Richest Man in Babylon. Why Babylon? Because Clason believed that the fundamental knowledge of wealth originated there, a place where there were no dense forests, no oil wells, and no gold mines. It was inhabited solely by disciplined, hardworking, and sharp-minded people who built one of the most glorious cities in history. For nearly a century, this small book has inspired millions of people to take control of their financial futures. Most importantly, its messages remain just as accurate and useful today. Just think for a moment. If a simple mapmaker from Denver could rebuild his fortune by adopting these principles, what can they not do for you? Therefore, if you have ever experienced stress regarding money, if you want to feel secure about your financial situation, or if you want someone to explain these concepts in a very simple way, this presentation is for you. Because here, I will walk you through every single chapter, every parable, and every pearl of wisdom one by one. So, are you ready? Because Babylon is calling you. Now, let us step toward the core subject. A historical depiction of Babylon. Have you ever considered how one of the wealthiest cities in history came to flourish in the middle of a hot and arid desert? No forests, no gold mines, and insufficient rainfall. It sounds as though life could not possibly thrive there, right? Yet Babylon, which we today consider synonymous with wealth, property, and opulence, rose from that barren land to become the economic center of the ancient world. But how was this miracle possible? We are about to uncover this mystery because Babylon did not emerge by mere coincidence or the grace of geography. It was the result of foresight, knowledge, and wisdom that is completely relevant not only 4,000 years ago, but also today and for the next 4,000 years. Close your eyes and imagine stepping onto the dry, cracking soil of a valley. The heat of the sun is intense. Dust is flying from beneath your feet. There is no greenery as far as the eye can see, no mountains, just desolation. Now look again, and suddenly towering fortresses, magnificent stone temples, and bustling markets come into view. This is Babylon. What could have brought it to life? Just two simple elements, earth and water, specifically the Euphrates River. The residents of Babylon did not sit idly by hoping to become rich. They threw themselves wholeheartedly into hard work. They constructed massive and deep irrigation canals to divert the river's flow to the dry land, transforming barren soil into fertile fields. Imagine turning the dying earth around your home into a lush farm. They accomplished this feat on a massive scale. The canals they dug were so vast that 12 horses could run alongside them at once, and they did this without the aid of machines, as machines had not been invented in that era. They achieved this with discipline, well-laid plans, and the unwavering belief that intelligent effort builds a strong city. Here, Babylon shines even more impressively. Its rulers were not consumed solely by the desire to conquer land or expand their empire. They were mindful of agriculture, trade, engineering, and a lawful order. The mindset of creation rather than conquest made Babylon exceedingly prosperous. However, Babylon was wealthy not only in food and goods, but the city was equally rich in ideas. Its inhabitants were among the early adopters of actual currency for trade. They pioneered concepts such as promissory notes, receipts, IOUs, and interest rates. They kept records of every transaction on clay tablets systematically stored in temples and homes. In that era, Babylon was akin to a modern-day Dubai. Yet, most importantly, they accomplished all of this without machines, computers, or electricity, solely by the strength of their strong hands, sharp minds, and clear priorities. So what is the main lesson for us here? It is that you don't need extremely favorable conditions to earn wealth. You only need to make use of the resources available in your current situation and exercise good judgment. The citizens of Babylon did precisely that. They utilized their intellectual capacity far more than their physical strength, generating immense wealth through well-organized trade, rules, and a few basic principles. Even 4,000 years later, those secret formulas remain entirely effective. Clason, the author of this timeless book, explained in very simple words that wealth comes in abundance to those who internalize the basic rules of its management, and those rules remain unchanged today. Having reached this point in our journey, where we have seen how Babylon became a symbol of prosperity, I pose a question to you. If it is said that the path to acquiring wealth begins not with money, but with an intense will, would you believe it? Be sure to share your thoughts and your responses. The path to wealth is shaped not by greed or mere imagination, but by a deep and true hunger to live a better life. We will examine this fact in depth in our next chapter. We will meet a man whose pockets are completely empty, yet a strong desire to move forward burns in his mind. So stay connected with us, because your true journey of wealth and dreams begins right here. Chapter 1. The Man Who Desired Gold. Have you ever looked at the current state of your life and wondered why you always seem stuck in the exact same condition despite working so hard? Or perhaps you've asked yourself, I earn money, but where does it all vanish? If this situation matches your life, you are not alone, because Bansir's state of mind was precisely the same. He was counted among Babylon's most skilled chariot makers, yet despite all his skill and mastery, his money purse was always empty. His stomach growled louder than the noisy sounds of the marketplace, and his dreams of the future were like smoke floating in the air, visible one moment and gone the next. However, the turning point in Bansir's life began with a single simple question. By the end of this chapter, not only will you be familiar with that question, but you will find yourself repeating it as well. Let us try to understand this very closely. Bansir was resting against the outer wall of his dwelling, staring fixedly at a half-finished chariot. His wife peeked from behind the curtain and hoped he would soon return to work, but he sat there just as before, drenched in sweat, thoroughly exhausted, and lost in deep contemplation. His dear friend Kobbi, a cheerful musician, passed by, saw him, and mocked. "You are resting even in broad daylight. You must have grown very rich indeed." But no smile appeared on Bansir's face. He told Kobbi about a dream he had had the previous night, in which he saw himself as extremely rich, truly rich. He was showering gold coins upon the poor and needy, adoring his wife in soft silk garments, and proudly strolling through the streets of the marketplace. People looked at him and smiled respectfully. For the first time in his life, he had experienced a deep sense of security. But as soon as his eyes opened, his money purse was empty as before. His wife was busy with her household chores as always. The chariot he was building remained incomplete, and his tools waited for him just the same. He looked at Kobbi and asked in a deeply distressed voice, "Why does my right to the money I earn never hold firm?" Kobbi blinked, slowly shook his head, and said, "I have asked myself this exact question countless times." That day, the two of them held a long discussion. Two talented men, one a skilled craftsman and the other an accomplished musician, both realized the bitter truth that they had spent most of their lives merely laboring. They could create beautiful works, entertain people, and feed their families, but their earnings emptied much faster than their purses could fill. And from this springs the great message of the chapter. If a continuous source of income is not established, even the largest filled reserve will empty in a very short time. During their silent conversation, a thought suddenly struck Bansir that also took root in Kobbi's mind. He said, "Is it possible that the wealthy lords of Babylon possess some secret knowledge that is hidden from us? Perhaps laboring alone is not enough for us. We need the proper education on this subject. It is possible that wealth is not a matter of divine luck or chance, but a skill that anyone can learn." Following this, they recalled a close friend from their youth, Arkad. He had not been wealthy from the beginning. In fact, he was once an ordinary, hardworking young man just like them. But now, Arkad rode in gold-plated chariots and dined with the most distinguished people of the royal court. He was recognized as the richest man in all of Babylon. Thereupon, Bansir and Kobbi made a firm resolution. They would no longer rely solely on hard labor and luck, but would go straight to Arkad and ask, "How did you achieve this great success?" And at that very moment, everything began to change. For the first time in their lives, they were not waiting for wealth to walk up to their doorstep. They set out in search of Jexruth themselves, and that single decision changed their entire world. So what lesson can you draw from this vivid story? It is this: if you are not satisfied with your current financial standing, do not limit yourself to physical labor alone. Become wise. You already possess various skills. You know well how work is accomplished. But to build a vast empire of wealth, you must understand how to create streams of income, save money, and keep your purse continuously filled. Even when you are not busy hammering or playing your instrument, the flow of wealth towards you must continue. Like Bansir and Kobbi, perhaps it is time to stop sitting quietly and start knocking on the door of knowledge. Now Bansir and Kobbi are fully prepared. Taking their other companions along, they are setting out toward Arkad's dwelling. What remains to be seen now is what secret that richest man in Babylon will reveal to them. You will lift the veil from this mystery in the next chapter.